Earlier today, through an op-ed appearing in the Wall Street Journal, President Biden laid out a three-part plan for fighting America's elevated inflation. And that was before he passed the buck to the Federal Reserve. He again claimed it was exacerbated by Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine. And he tried to assure the American people that they should have confidence that our economy faces these challenges from a position of strength. But how much confidence does the president's plan really give, especially when you know how economics really works? I mean, again, just about 10 months ago, the president was saying those that are warning that the economy is overheating and that we're seeing inflation, he was dismissive of that. And at the same time, pushing for more government spending. This is basic stuff. Well, joining me now to break down and analyze the president's plan for fighting inflation is economist Steve Moore, who is a senior fellow at FreedomWorks and co-founder of the Committee to Unleash Prosperity, and he's the former president of the Club for Growth. Stephen, welcome back to the program.
Hi, Tony. Good to be with you.
So the president started off his op-ed by saying America is in a position of strength right now, stating that the job market is the strongest since post-World War II era. How much truth is there in that?
Look, the jobs market is strong, no question about it. How long it'll stay strong, I'm doubtful. I'm really worried about the economy slipping into recession. But yeah, we have 10 million jobs open. So if you're looking for a job, this is a good time to do it. And you might want to lock in a job now because I am worried about where we're headed. Now, the other side of the equation, of course, Tony, as you know, is that we have this out of control inflation that we haven't seen, you and I, since, the late 1970s when Jimmy Carter was president. And that's causing real hardship for families. One of the things that Joe Biden said, there were a lot of falsehoods in that piece. And one of the things he said is American savings are up. No, they're not. American savings are being depleted by this inflation and they're not rising. And now Americans are actually having to, because of the high prices, they actually have to spend more money out of their savings just to pay the bills.
Well, that was one of the questions I want to ask you, because I'm wondering if some of that savings is because of the supply chain issues. They can't buy the new car. The car costs so much. They're not able to buy the new used car. And so there is more dollars in saving, but the buying power has slid significantly because of inflation.
Well put. That's exactly right. And incidentally, on that issue of buying a car, I was giving a talk to the Auto Dealers Association in Colorado about a week ago. And I remember talking to a number of these auto dealers, and I talked to one. He said, normally, Steve, I have about 800 cars on my lot. And he says, right now I have 50. So that means that people are actually coming in, and to get a car, you have to wait 4, 6, 8 weeks. Or if you want one right away, you actually have to pay more than the sticker price. So instead of haggling down the price, you actually have to bid over the sticker price. That's inflation. And it is causing real hardship. I mean, when I talk to people on the street and they'll see me and they say, why do you keep saying, Steve, that inflation is only 8.5%? They say, my gas price is up 70%. My electric bills are up 50%. My food prices are up 25%. My rental payments are up 30%. So the real inflation, Tony, that families are feeling for buying the essentials, that is 2 or 3 times higher than the official inflation rate.
And that's what hurts the working poor, or the working class more, is that they feel this every day. They got to go stop at the store on the way home, pick up a gallon of milk, got to get gas in the car. So they're seeing this every day. This is what has to be, I think, frightening the Democrats, is that voters are seeing, feeling, experiencing this on a real-time basis.
Yeah, and my frustration, Tony, is, I worked as a senior economist for Donald Trump, and I didn't agree with everything Trump did, but I do think on the economy, he did a really amazing job. Mm-hmm. And I'm here to tell you, I honestly believe if Donald Trump were still president and we hadn't made that mistake in November of 2020, I think the economy would be absolutely booming right now. Booming. Oh. We wouldn't have $6 gas prices. We wouldn't be having to have these tankers send gasoline and oil from Russia. We wouldn't have I don't recall any supply chain problems when Trump was president. Do you?
No, I think you're absolutely right. In fact, that sets up my next question for you, because in this piece, the president, essentially President Biden, passes the buck, at least this is the way I read it, to the Federal Reserve, because they have primary responsibility in controlling inflation. Well, he created the mess. I understand they have monetary policy. They can do certain things, but he created the mess with his policies.
Yeah, this is important for people to understand what happened. So Biden came in, and by the way, Trump put a lot of money into the economy as well during the COVID crisis. So we had $1 trillion in the pipeline when Biden came into office. Then he spends $3 trillion on top of that. And where did that money come from? Well, that we had to borrow it. And then where did who bought the bonds? The Fed did, and they printed money to do it. So the Fed accommodated all this extra spending. And of course, that led to it very predictably, this high inflation. So in my opinion, Tony, I think the Fed and Biden are kind of partners in crime here in creating this inflation crisis, which, by the way, is not going away. Today, the price of oil on the international markets hit $110, almost $120 a barrel, which is one of the highest ever in the history of our country.
That brings the next point. That's probably the last one I can ask you about. But the Congressional Budget Office, he was saying this in his op-ed, the Congressional Budget Office projected the deficit will fall by $1.7 trillion this year. He is touting the largest reduction of the deficit in history. Well, that was one-time spending. That was supposed to be one-time spending for COVID relief. How can you say that you're reducing the deficit when that was simply one-time spending for an emergency? You're not cutting spending.
There's no president in modern times who has increased the debt in this first 15 months in office more than Joe Biden. It's actually almost laughable that he keeps claiming that he's some kind of fiscal conservative when we've had trillions and trillions of debt added in just his first 15 months. And you're right, we started with this very high level of spending because of COVID, obviously, and the spending was going to go down. And now he's taking credit for that, when actually the thing that really, in my opinion, most effectively dealt with the COVID situation was Operation Warp Speed, which actually, as I recall, was a Donald Trump program.
Right. Steve Moore, always great to talk with you. Thanks so much for joining us today here on Washington Watch.
Thank you, Tony.